All right, so now that we have heard from both Eric and Sarita around the specifics of definitions, as well as some of our own MMSD data, we're going to spend a bit of time applying this to our direct roles as MMSD employees. So the question is, what are the implications of all of this learning for the workplace? How does bias, racism, anti-racism, and discrimination impact me and impact the work I do and the workplace environment? The answer is that our biases and the expectations we hold of ourselves and of others drastically impact the environment of our work and our culture here in MMSD. When we're aware of what we bring to the table, both in our life experiences and biases, then we are more likely to work to create an inclusive environment for those around us, for our staff and our students, our families, and ourselves. As Sarita shared in her data and through other data we've gathered, we know people stay in their jobs when they feel like they belong. So let's talk a little bit about this now and know that conversations will continue beyond this video series. Sarita, all you.
So why does bias matter? Our biases are better predictors of our actions than our conscious values. For example, in hiring, confirmation bias often plays a detrimental role at the very beginning of the process when you first review a resume and form an initial opinion of the candidate based on inconsequential attributes like their name, where they're from, where they went to school, and so forth. This opinion can follow you into the interview process and consequently steer questions to confirm the initial opinion of the candidate. Confirmation bias is the inclination to draw conclusions about a situation or a person based on your personal desires, beliefs, and prejudices rather than on unbiased merit, which can affect relationships. The more intentional work that we put into recognizing and addressing our own biases will lead to more inclusive workplaces.
So let's get a little bit more specific. How does bias actually show up in our workplace? What are some happenings that we should pay attention to both in ourselves and in those around us? This slide here is going to show you just a few examples, and I'm sure you can think of many more. Sarita and I can brainstorm an entire list of these each time we talk. So here's an easy way to think about bias in the workplace. If you hold a preconceived notion about someone based on one piece of who they are, like women are better at multitasking, or that person's accent means they're probably slower to understand English, or, oh yeah, Black women are usually single mothers, and so she's probably got a lot going on at night, then that's probably bias at play. If you don't know the whole story about someone or a situation, it's a good time to stop and pause and consider what you are bringing into that thought process and conversation. If you're making an assumption about someone based off of one piece of information, just let yourself pause and think about it, even right in the moment. Bringing that unconscious bias into your conscious brain helps to stop this cycle. So take a moment to read through these examples. What have you experienced? What have you been a part of? I'm sure you can think of some examples just like we can. I'll hand it off to Sarita for the next slide.
The following will be considered red flags as it relates to workplace bias. These will be times to pause and reconsider the actions that you're taking to arrive at a final, unbiased decision. And pass it back to Lachelle.
All right, so we have reached the end of our time together, and we want to just share sincere gratitude with you for spending this time with us, even if it was virtual. We hope you're starting to think about a few things differently, and we hope you take time to pause more often. Consider the following questions as you think about this time you've just spent. What have you noticed? What have you noticed about what we've learned? What have you noticed about yourself as you've listened to these videos? Can you think of other examples from your own life or your own work? Examples of bias or harassment, discrimination? What stereotypes and assumptions do you hold? How does this impact your day-to-day work? How does this impact how you go about your job in MMSD? We have one more thing to ask of you before we close. Harvard has developed an amazing implicit bias test that's free and available to the public. It brings light to biases we all hold around different aspects of identity. Each time I've taken one of these tests, I've come up with new learning about myself. We want you to take the race-focused implicit association test to dig a bit more deeply into your own personal assumptions and biases before we talk about this again. You can find that implicit bias test by clicking the link in this slide deck, which is available to you through the Talent Portal resources. There are also many other options for different implicit association tests that you can take if you want to explore your biases in other areas, such as gender or language. Thank you again for your time and attention throughout this series. Have a great rest of your day.